Hey, this is Adam Torres, and I'm here to tell you that it has never been easier to start your very own podcast. At Mission Matters, our goal is to amplify stories that matter. That means we want to help you start your podcast because your story matters. We can do this in 3 different ways. 1, join our podcast school and take a free or paid course. 2, visit our resources page where we've already figured out what you need, such as where to host your podcast. Or 3, heck, we can even do everything for you through our podcast agency, including editing for cheaper than you can do in-house. Oh, and no contract, service is month to month. Get started by heading over to missionmatters.com and click on Start a Podcast. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at @AdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Sarah Saffari on the line, and she's co-founder and a business coach over at CE Owned. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so I'm excited about today's topic. So the neuroscience behind changing your life, mindset, and finances, huge topic on the show, and I'm excited to get your perspective. But before we do that, let's talk a little bit more about what you're doing over at CE Owned. Tell us a little bit more about your company, please.
Yeah, so we help service-based businesses essentially grow and scale their businesses. So 2 types of people. Either they're starting from absolute scratch and they want to build their first 6 figures, or they're making some money and they just want to grow to the multiple 6- and 7-figure range. And we walk them through our blueprint and our processes to essentially be able to do that.
So, Sarah, at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to leave your website or social media, email, wherever you want people to connect with you at to get more information. But I do want to make sure that the right types of individuals do connect. Are there any particular? I know you mentioned size. It sounds like you work with various sizes, but are there different niches or things that you specialize in? Just to give the audience a feel, because I want to make sure the right people connect.
Yeah, totally. So we work with fitness individuals, so people who want to build their fitness business online, as well as relationship coaches or mindset coaches or any kind of coach who's in the service-based industry, and they're really, really good at what they do. They're good at wearing the coaching hat, but they're kind of like stuck on the marketing part. They're stuck on the sales part. They don't really know how to get themselves out there. They don't know how to consistently get high-paying clients that can come to them, and then they can build a signature offer that will keep people coming back. So those are typically the people that we help grow the fastest. Oh,
that's awesome. I love to hear that, and I love when somebody has a good niche and has a good process, which it sounds like you have both. So that's awesome. Let's switch it up a bit. So I do want to jump into today's topic. So the neuroscience behind changing your life, mindset, and finances. I know that we could probably talk about that for hours, if not days, and there's only so much we can do in a 15-minute episode. But where do you want to start with this one? Because we want to tackle something today.
Yeah, I think when it comes to business and when you kind of get into the nitty-gritty of everything in the sense of talking to people and finding out where they're blocked. So you can have the best systems, you can have the best processes, you can have all the things that someone needs in play from a skill perspective, and sometimes people will still be stuck. Sometimes they feel like, they just can't get past certain hurdles that they have. And that's where the neuroscience comes in. That's where neurobiology comes in and all this kind of stuff. And that's what I struggled with. So with me personally, like when I first started my first business, which was a fitness business online, I had every coach in the books. I had every strategy. I had everything that I needed to be successful. And I just was struggling. And I was just struggling to make it. And people around me using the same strategies were able to, reach success and make lots of money and do all those kinds of things. And for me, it just came down to a mindset level. And that's where I got to a point where I was like, started studying this stuff. I started studying neuroscience. I started studying the principles of it and learning about nerves and nerves that wire together, fire together, and learning about how to program and unprogram certain behaviors and how that serves you and doesn't serve you in your business. And so that's kind of the biggest thing is a lot of times people allow subconscious programs that are essentially based on neural wiring from either before the age of 7 or things that have been programmed after that age through repetition really influence how they go about their business. And although they might have everything at their hands, they'll still feel stuck, or they'll still feel like there's something stopping them. So I can give like more concrete examples, right? So someone can know exactly like a sales process, or how they can, go through a certain script or through a certain process, or how to frame certain things. But if they're stuck in a limited mindset of how to be able to really sell a product that they know or they believe in that can be successful, they're not going to be able to. Maybe because from a young age they were told that all sales are icky, or that if you do this, you're a bad person, or rich people, are bad, or inherently just, can't help the world or service the world, or those kinds of things. And so what it really comes down to is finding out, okay, where are my limitations? Where do I feel stuck? What kind of neural programming have I allowed to get in the way of me growing my business and then being able to continuously expand my life? Because in your first 6 figures, multiple 6 figures, you are your business. And if you don't bring those subconscious patterns, behaviors, and neural wiring from a subconscious level to a conscious level, you're going to stay stuck. And so once you have that consciousness, that's when you can go about the strategies to be able to change it.
So I know that everybody's going to be at different points and on their journey, right? Like, so everybody's doing in their own points. Some people are a little further ahead. Some people are not quite as far ahead because this is new information to them. Where I do like to give like some tangible things and just things that people can start today. Like I'm a low hanging fruit guy. So I'm like, if I can start something today, great. If it's going to take me too long to do this, I might not get around to it. It might be on that long list of to-dos. So what's something that, not asking for any magic bullet here, but what's some things that people can start at least thinking about today if they're in that mindset to where they want to make a change?
Totally. I think the biggest thing is becoming aware. The easiest way to become aware is literally take out a piece of paper, take out a pen, and write down every single thought that you have in one day, even in 5 hours if you want to, and just write it all out. And when you just do that exercise for a few hours in your day, and you review every single thought that you've had, or at least most of them, and you look at them, a lot of times we are ourselves shocked at the amount of negative patterns that we have, the thoughts that we have, the things that we go through, the things that end up influencing our behavior, our actions, and the results that we end up getting, right? So I think the biggest thing is, how do I take my subconscious thoughts, bring them to my conscious awareness, so that then if I want to choose to, I can go ahead and change them. And that just comes from awareness, and awareness just comes from the simple strategy, just as simple as writing it all down, finding out what's serving you, finding out what thought patterns aren't serving you, and then from there, if you want to choose to change it, you can go ahead and do that.
That's awesome. I think that's really helpful advice. And so now let's get into this idea of consistency. So you're building these patterns, if you will, in your brain and other things. Like, so what's that next step? I want to talk to the people that are a little bit like further along. So maybe they've heard of some of this stuff, but maybe they just haven't had a good time, or they're not as far along as they like to be on the implementation part. Let's talk to them for a bit.
Right. So they have an awareness of this, but they just have no idea what the next steps are. Mm-hmm. Right. So I think, like I was saying earlier, when it comes to the neuroscience section of it, nerves that wire together, fire together. That also means nerves that no longer wire together, no longer fire together. And so you have to take patterns that don't serve you, and you have to unwire and unfire those patterns. And like you were saying, it takes effort, it takes consistency, and it takes time. And that's why most people don't do it. Because although it's possible, and although we don't have some kind of genetic destiny, and we can literally change our gene expression in very short periods of time, and are literally the way that our brain looks from a neurological perspective, it takes time and it takes repetition. And so I think if I were to give one piece of advice, I think a lot of times we'll get super motivated for something, we'll want to do it, maybe we'll be feeling really good for 2 or 3 days, maybe a week, and then we'll fall off. And I think the biggest thing is to allow yourself space to say that's okay. Like if you're doing something for a week and you fall off, let's say you choose to meditate. Let's say you want to unwire a pattern, you want to meditate, you start meditating 20 minutes a day. After 7 days, something comes up, you fall off. I think the biggest thing is just giving yourself grace, allowing yourself to fall off, but then just getting back on the wagon. And I think nothing is more important than failing forward and failing fast and then getting back on it and doing that same thing. What happens a lot of the time is that people allow the so-called failure to defeat them. And as a result of that, they end up just not going back for it because they feel so defeated. So stick to something, make a choice, find an intention, find a why, the reason why you want to do it that's going to hold you to it. And once and if you fall off, that's okay. Give yourself grace and then just hop back on it.
Man, that's awesome. I love this. And I love the answer, by the way, because I find that so many people, they maybe beat themselves up over this, like whether it's, and you actually work with a lot of people in fitness too, and it's like, it doesn't do you any good, right? I mean, we're humans. Like, we're going to make mistakes like we're supposed to. It's okay. But like, we just keep trying. And so I love that you say, give yourself space. I think giving yourself that space can make all the difference. I think it's a great tip.
Yeah, definitely agreed. I think, that's the biggest thing. And there's a lot of fitness analogies as well, right? Like we got to go through the pain. We got to go through the soreness before we can heal, before we can get back on it, before we can get stronger. And so just using that as something to push you forward instead of hold you back.
So Sarah, that being said, if somebody is listening to this right now and they want to learn more about CE Owned or they want to connect with you and your team, I mean, what's the best way for them to start, connecting and also to follow your content and the things that you're putting out?
Yes. So a couple options. First one is they can hop on our website at www.theceownedcoach.com. So that's CEOWNED.com, or they can follow me on Instagram at Saffari Sarah, like Safari, like you're going on a safari, but 2 S, and then Sarah, SARAH.
Fantastic. Well, Sarah, it's been awesome having you on the show today, and love to hear your insight on the neuroscience between really changing your life and also how you're helping your clients over at CE Owned. I think it's awesome, and I love your approach because the more coaches you help, the more clients they are then in turn able to help. So I think it's great what you're doing. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. And if you're watching this on our YouTube video, on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments on the video. Love to know what kind of projects and things that you're working on. And Sarah, thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.